Hello everyone, I'm Tony of Doka, and we're progressing through the Generation 3, Gen 3 Serpent 2-wheel drive car, and today we're in phase 3 and we're going to do the ball diff. After this, by the way, we're going to do the gear diff, so we're going to do the two differentials that can fit into the car, and I'll show you how I do mine. So with no further ado, you can now see that I've got a different kind of cloth on my workspace, only because this is dead clean. There's no, don't want to contaminate anything in the ball diff with all the workings areas and everything that was going on here. So we've got the kit, diff balls, all the bearings, the washers, all the bits and pieces are here ready. But if you excuse me, we're not going to use the kit diff balls, so we're going to put them back into a packet. They're still greased or whatever kind of lubricant they put on them from a factory, so they're in there. But just so we know what they are, we're also going to mark them because they're going into our spares, so we're going to mark them as kit. So the kit diff balls are put to one side because we have options. So the options we have are the carbide diff balls that Serpent do, or we have the Rude Bits diff balls that I've been doing for about 12 years now. Now, carbide diff balls, you would say, well, carbide diff balls. Well, there are different grades, and they're all very good. This is what I recommend. You've got to put carbide diff balls in your ball diff. They're harder and everything else. On this occasion, although, like I said, highly recommend them. I've used them many times. These are the Serpent ones. I'm going to just discard them only because they're in here. The cars that can go back on the shelf if you like. And today I'm going to use the Rude Bits tungsten carbide diff balls. So we take them out of the little packet, and we put that to one side. We cannot proceed with a ball diff unless we degrease some components. Now, the components that have to be degreased are the outdrives, the diff plates, the diff balls, and the thrust race balls, right? So we can't do it on this cloth because this cloth is a fiber cloth, and because it's fiber, you would end up losing them. So we're going to just get this cloth here, and it's going to be a very simple procedure. It's trying to grab them out the fibers and put them onto the back side of this more working cloth. So there they are. Before we carry on, we will count, not that there's ever an issue, but 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's what we're looking for. So just for a little bit of information for you, the Serpent kit uses 1/8 diff balls, which I do believe are the biggest in the RC industry, in fact. So a bigger diff ball, more space, it just lasts longer. It's the right thing to do. So I'm just going to just cover and very, very lightly, so I don't lose any, of course, just soak them in brake cleaner. Any brake cleaner would do, so long as it's a brake cleaner that can evaporate away quickly. And you can see what I'm now going to do. I'm just going to sit them back onto there, just let them rest so they can evaporate. Now in this area here, I'm going to somehow, they're so fiddly, these little ones. I'm going to grab, if I struggle grabbing them, you might have noticed I've got now tweezers as well, so I can grab them, put them on that damp area. These are the thrust race ones. I could have done this before, but I just want to sort of highlight that you you have to do this, right? Anybody that doesn't, and then you come to me at trackside and say, oh, my diff is not working right, these are the reasons. That's very wet there, so I'm going to just use that dampness of that cloth to wash these off with any contamination, maybe some oils, or I don't know, well, whatever they use in the factory to get these made. Funnily, actually, now when I put them in here, it's going to be quite interesting, because as I put them in here, they start to disappear, so you might have to see me struggle to get them out. Now, of course, we will just double check, make sure we haven't lost one, and if by memory we've got 8 of these, so I'm just going to count. 1, oh dear, get off me. As you can see, they disappear into the fiber. So 1, 2, 3. Bear with me a sec. Get them off my scalpel. Get off. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, so 8 it is. So now that we've cleaned that, we can just move on to just washing these out drives off. I tend to just wash the inside, believe it or not. I don't tend to wash the the sort of outside of the outdrive, because a little bit of oil on the outside is not going to affect what my differential is doing, but it will, and maybe just protect it a little. So we'll sit them aside just to dry off. Now the diff plates themselves, again, just squirt them with some motor cleaner and wipe them off. These are probably the most important out of all of them, so I will actually grab them in my hand and make sure that they are nice and grease proof, if that's the right wording. And I hope you're enjoying the build, by the way. And maybe, just maybe, there's a couple of introductions for you that you like. Now, it's differentials are very easy to build. There's quite a few videos, in fact, of different people building differentials. I'm not too sure that they're quite particular about when they set them up, but we'll get to that stage in a mo and we'll see how we get on. So these are clean. I can just see on a dead clean yellow cloth look, no residue, no anything. Likewise with these, nothing on them whatsoever. Very, very important that they're also dry before we apply grease. Now, grease, on this occasion, I have been doing a lot of testing with greases and everything else. So these are my 2 favourite at the moment, and I say at the moment, a lot of years I've been running ball diffs, and there's various out there. They're all silicone based type greases. You can, if you excuse me for saying this, if you want to just go and buy a cheap one, put some silicone grease in there, it'll work. I'm not sure it's going to work as good. I'm not too sure it's going to last as long. So when you've had sort of 3 runs and your diff needs rebuilding, you're wondering why. So the ball diff is very, very important, and there you have it. Now, this, you might notice, what is that? Well, that's the kit grease, believe it or not. And I really like the kit grease. I'm not even sure that it's meant for what I use it for, right? But I use it to for the little thrust races, and it works very, very well. It seems to be slightly water resistant as well, so I like the kit grease. So we'll proceed, and I'll show you how I do that. Oh my goodness me, nearly forgot these 2. Got to just quickly, you see, this is what happens when you're chatting away. Just got to make sure these are degreased as well. Can't have the thrust race not degreased. Goodness me. There we go. So let me just quickly wipe these down. Luckily they're very small, so they'll evaporate within no time. And also you will also notice, I don't know how much you can see that, but my hands are very clean. I'm not sort of greased up from mechanicking on anything else, or doing CVDs or anything else. That your hands have to be clean for this exercise. Again, it's just my my philosophy of it. So there you have it. You would also notice I didn't degrease this because, again, I think this being protected has got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing here. So we take one of the thrust races and we put it on. This is where it gets very fiddly, but I'm hoping my my zoom cam is going to help us out here. So there's the one, and I want to show you what I do with this particular scenario here. So I take this grease. I know it's at an angle, this camera, so you must excuse me if I'm covering some of it, but I will try and show you. Look, even my knife, I'm just going to just wipe it on that damp bit just to make sure my knife that I'm going to actually use as an applicator here to get some grease. And I just want to show you how I do this. Right, maybe that's the right angle. So I put grease in there like so. Let's take a little bit more. Now it doesn't actually matter how much you apply of this, because you see what I do at the end. So you can see, like, try and get that in focus if I possibly can. Plenty of grease in there, but watch what I do with it. So now I'm gonna sort of try and make like a little wedge of grease. I don't know if that's the right wording, to be honest with you, but just going to show you how I do this and how it ends up. So a little bit of a fiddly job, but I end up with that like so. Can you see? That's probably the right angle. Yep. So that's how it ends up. Now what I do is while it's that way up, right, I get my little tweezers. I put the most smidgen of grease on them because I want to pick up these little let me just quickly switch to the other camera so you can see it. Unfortunately these two cameras can't mix, so I just grab these little balls and I just place them in situ one by one, and it, strangely enough, doesn't actually matter how accurate you are with this, because the grease that you've already put in place is holding it in place. So as soon as it drops onto the grease, it stays there. And I just go back to this grease. There are various ones that you can buy, right? So you just got to pick your favorite and go from there. If you trust a particular name, stay with it, as long as you're using the same product all the time and not really swapping from product to product. That's how you're going to do well. And that's my tip in radio control car racing as a whole. You know, you want to drive one car one year and another car the next, and then the next, and then the next. You are just never going to get to the creme de la creme point, because you need to be unison with what you're doing, what you're driving, and everything else. To me, that's very important. So let me go back to the zoom cam and see if you can see, even at an angle. I'm not scared. I don't know how much you can see of that. See, all the diff balls are just sitting in there, and if you look, they're not even if you like, but that doesn't matter, because watch this, right? So now that that's there, we take the other half of that, we'll drop it on the top, so you now have a sandwich. Can you see the sandwich there? And to fill up that sandwich, see if I can just come sideways for a second just to show you. I just swipe down like this, so all the little grease that was excess, or a diff ball that was maybe not in not in position or something, and I end up with that scenario. Now you see, like there's a little gap. You see a little gap where it's not filled out with grease. Well, just very easy. Just go back to my grease. I want to fill that little gap up, so the sandwich is achieved and filled up with grease. Doesn't matter how much I put on, because I'm gonna press it in there anyway. And that's the way that I do my thrust race. Now you've got to obviously be careful, because you don't want to drop any of the diff balls. You could even, if you're really good, right? I'm going to attempt this, right? You could even put like a little knife on there, like so. Turn it nice and gently, and remove, or at least smoothen out. Look at that. That's really good. I mean, it's actually turned out very nice for someone that's trying to explain their build. Now, see that kind of little lump of grease there, etc. I'm quite fussy, right? So unfortunately, I'm gonna manipulate that a little bit more, because it's just me. I need to walk away from building something and say to myself, you know what? I know that is right. I know that that's going to go on the track. It's not going to have a problem. It's not going to have a failure or anything like that. So that's how I have it. Right. So you can see it just there. Again, I'm not quite sure how zoomed in that is, but that's finished. That's ready. Right. So let's go back to the main one. Now, some people get confused about where to put what, and etc, etc. This, as far as I'm concerned, is ready. So because it's ready, we're going to put the lid on that. Look, I'm still holding it. It doesn't matter. No diff balls are going to come out or anything. So we're going to put that literally, if I can get it to stay on there, and she is ready to pop in, right? So we move on to the next stage. Now, again, there's very different people do different things in different ways, right? For me, we spoke about this on the slipper clutch. The spring for me has to be compressed, right? So I've put it into my pliers and I work it, as you can see. You know, you can see the spring in there. Hopefully you can see the spring in there anyway. There, if I go closer, maybe that would just zoom in. There's the spring, but I obviously cover it with my hands so it doesn't go flying, and I work that spring a little. So when you're building a ball diff, the majority of the time, I don't know about other manufacturers. I don't remember the other manufacturers so much, but certainly on the Serpent, it drops in the one with the little lug, right? So so we drop the spring into the outdrive, then we put the nut on it with its two little lugs, and we push that all the way in, and it should just hold there, if you like. And as you can see, if I'm upset that it doesn't quite want to hold, but normally it would hold in place so you can do your work, if you like. So we'll just put that to one side because we don't need to touch that for a moment. Some people drop the bearings into the actual drive gear, if you like, if that's what you want to call it, a diff ball holder, whatever you want to call it. I don't actually do that. I actually put the bearing on here, right, and then I put that bearing in there. So the two bearings are in situ, but when this goes on, it locates on the bearing. Now there's a little reason I do that, and you'll see it becomes self-explanatory as I proceed to the next stage of the diff build. Now, of course, many people are just going to say, well, just put it together. Okay, fine, put it together. I go a little bit further than that. Here, these diff plates, as far as I've ever known, I've got two sides to them, right? And now what I mean by that is there's a flat side, which is dead flat all the way to the edge, and there's one that just feels slightly rounded, okay? I put the rounded to the diff half, right? Now you're going to say, well, why would you do that? Well, the only, again, without using any wrong language, my OCD says they're both going to be the same. I can't have a rounded one on one side and a flat one on the other side for whatever bizarre reason, right? But that's how I do it. So the slightly rounded this way. So if I get to a situation, I'm at track and I've got no choice and I've got to turn them around to use the other side, at least they're both working the right way. This is my choice of lube. It's a new lube, as you can see, from Rubits. It's really good, but unfortunately, guys, it's not cheap. It's one of them scenarios that you can have all sorts of different lubes for all sorts of different things, but when it comes to a ball diff, you just got to have the right product, right? So it's very good. That's what I use, and if I may say so myself, when it's low grip, my car is just dialed. It really is. I just love my car in low grip. So I don't put anything on the diff plate, but I do take a little bit of grease, just a little bit, and I put it on here. So just turn it round onto the air drive. I've lost my little plastic nut that's just come there. I'll put that back in again in a second. Luckily my spring has stayed in place, so that's good. So a little bit on that out drive. I take the diff half, the diff plate, and I place it on there, and I just work it so it just goes round, and now it's on. It's not going to drop. It's not going to do anything, right? So that's that side. I take the other side, take a little bit. I mean, it's, if I can just go to the zoom cam, it's a very small amount. I don't know if you can see me doing that. Let me just try and get it at the right angle so you can view that. It's basically, you can see where it's touched. I just smear it around like so. It's doesn't have to be even or anything like that. It's just, you could just see it there, yeah. So as I hold that in the right position, I get my flat plate, and I'll just go around. Look, that's it. So this one's ready as well. Just show you back to this one. That one's ready as well. And it doesn't matter if you get any grease on there, because of course it's going to be flooded with grease anyway in a second, isn't it? So that's just basically it, and you can just see it trying to ooze around the inside there, but that holds it nicely in place. Okay, so if I then go back to the main area so you can see what I'm now going to do is, I'm quite particular about this. There's a lot of people, I've seen a lot of videos with this from some very good, well, some of the best drivers in the world have done videos on this, and I think they might have a very slightly different philosophy to what I'm going to do, but I basically just get a wallop of grease, and again, if you excuse me just reaching over just so I can show you how much I've got. I mean, it's a wallop of grease, look, and I basically go like that, look, and I just fill up those holes, right? So I just take a little bit more, I just fill up those holes. Excuse if you can hear in the background, that's my husky being called to go for a walk, bless her. So if you can hear that in the background, that's what was going on there. So you can see, look, it's sort of, you know, nearly filled out, and it should start to ease through. Can you see on the other side? Right, that's how it should look. So all of that area is now full of the grease that we want to use. It doesn't take a mathematician to work out what's next. We then just pick up our diff balls, we drop them into place, and as we pick them up, we pick them up from a very clean cloth with a very clean tool. There's again no sort of must make sure that nothing is contaminated while you build this. I see people doing it at trackside, and I've had to do it at trackside in the past, but I think if you're going serious racing, you have to really have a spare ball diff ready, and I'm going to show you some tricks in how you get those diffs exactly the same in a minute, so might be worth watching. So with this, I'm just going to push them down into the holes. Again, there's no heroics to this or anything like that, it's just my method in doing it. And now, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to show you this, but there they all are. They're all sitting in there. You will see on the other side, and I've got to put my hand there because I'm not quite finished with it. You can see this bulging out. You see the bulging out of the grease. I want that. That's exactly what I want, right? And I'll show you what will happen with that in a second. So as I put my finger in there and make sure that they are home, because the key is they must be home, right? So I just run round like so. I just literally just force them into the hole, because they are the right size diff balls, obviously, for the right size hole. Yeah, so there they are. Now you might also see that you could say, well, that's enough grease and everything else. Not for me, I'm afraid. I got to take more grease, and I'm going to put it all on the top like so, and I'm just going to fill the top of those just like I showed you on the thrust race. I'm looking for that area to be full of grease. Look, every single one of them is full of grease, right? That's how it should be. Now on the other side, you see where it's bulging of grease. Can you see that where it's pushed the grease out? I'm just going to put my finger in there and run it all the way around, and I do that on both sides. So any excess from one side goes to the other side, and I just fill that out in that fashion. So if I then show you my finished article, it should look like that. That's exactly how it should look. Look, all the way around, filled out. Doesn't matter if it oozes and it touches all these out, just don't worry about any of that. Look, both sides. Sorry if I can't get that quite in view, and you can see, beautiful, right? A little bit of excess in the middle there, just gonna not that it makes any difference, just get rid of that. And we just go back to our our build area, and now this is ready. So we're gonna just sit him there just for a second, just a little wipe of the hands, and put him to one side as well. He dropped out the little T-piece that we wind into. Now you see we wind into a very wide plastic nut, so our diffs don't tend to come undone like you see some other manufacturers, but you know, that's just our design. Our design is good, and that's what it's about. So we'll take this thrust race now. Bearing in mind this won't drop off, look, because you know the diff plate won't drop off that because we've got grease behind it. We drop the thrust race into the hole, pull him out the other side, just give him a little turn. Oh, she's beautiful, beautifully smooth. That's what you're looking for. Now, oh, my apologies. I don't really want to take it out, but I'm going to do it like this. I should have just shown you something. My massive apologies. I want to just show you this, right? On the Serpent, diff, and again, I can't speak for other manufacturers, right? Let me just get it into the right kind of zoom area where I want to show you something, right? Okay, let's do it this way. Everybody puts a screwdriver in there, see it? They put a screwdriver in there. Watch this. On the Serpent, 2 mil, drop it into the into this area here, line it up with your screw, so as you turn that a little bit like that, yeah. Now if I take that out while I'm zoomed in, let me just get to the right position so you can see what I'm going to show you. So if I take that out, I'm not going to move anything, I'll just try and get it so you can see inside. Can you see that the 2 mil fits right across that nut? Perfect. So therefore you can adjust this diff without taking it out, without popping a turnbuckle. You can't pop a turnbuckle on a Serpent anyway, but because they're captive, of course. But you can run a 2 mil down the side of the drive shaft, because the drive shaft will be leaning down. You can put it in like so, and you can adjust your diff while the diff is in the car. Great little feature. That's a massive well done, as far as I'm concerned, to Billy Easton. So we'll take the flat screwdriver and we're going to hold all of that in situ like so. And now, while this is all together on the other side, we put it all together to make sure that yes, that's going to fit, that's going to work, everything's going to be right. Okay, so at this stage we then go to the last stage there is, which is just dropping this onto the bearing. So you just work it onto the bearing like so. You don't need to do anything else. This will go on here like that. You're just going to screw it together. The beginning might be a little bit awkward in the sense that it's got to start. I don't tap that particular that particular a nut. So it's all together, as you can see. It's already good. I pull it apart like this slightly just to see. A lot of people now do different things in the sense of adjusting this, right? I don't know why people do different things. It puzzles me why they do different things. This feels okay. The last thing you want to do is squeeze the diff balls too much, but on the same token, the last thing you want to do is get to a situation where this what we call barks. We don't want the diff to ever bark on track. If it barks on track, in my opinion, is no good. And if you talk to any of the top guys, the pros, if it slips, it's never going to be right. So you don't want it to slip. So I've got this little tool here, right, which basically just sits on either side of the hour drives like that. Some people don't like using this, maybe because they don't know how to use it right, or it's not their favorite. Just holds the hour drives like so, and I can then turn that, and I can see that it is turning, but it's not going to bark. I've only just made it slip, if you like. So it's not tight enough. So we go to the next stage. Unfortunately, I know what the stage is, so I'm going to just cut to the chase a little bit, but you do it slowly until you get to a situation where it just doesn't slip anymore. And I think I'm there or thereabouts, only because, like I said before on these videos, I've built a few of them, so I know by feel. And you can already see, if I let me see, I don't know if the zoom will be better here. So it's holding the hour drives like that. So you want it nice and square, and I'm going to try and force that, and look, I can actually feel that that is just moving, so it still isn't tight enough. And I don't want to force it, because if I force it, I'm gonna scratch up the plate, the diff plates or the diff balls. I don't want to do any damage. I can feel it still needs to tighten a little bit more. I knew I was sort of there or thereabouts, but I'm just going to pinch it a little bit more, and that feels really, really good. It's not loose, but remember when it goes wider in the car, it's you know, but sorry, when you're on the wheels, you've got that kind of leverage. It will feel really, really smooth. It doesn't end there, guys, I'm afraid, because like I said, I'm gonna sort of show you a little way that I do things, and I want them, you know, I want things to be consistent. So if I'm building two diffs, I want, and it's built, by the way, this can drop into the car now. And my tip with dropping it into the car is always make sure when you're adjusting, slip up must slip first, right? So you never want this to bark in the car. If it barks in the car, finito. So I'll reach over and just introduce you to my little friend, which I now have, and it's a diff checker, right? Some people think it's gimmicky, right? Well, if I make it work like so, in fact, if I do this, just so you can see the readings, you can see that that is like quite high up in the 4,000s odd. But if I hold it and just let it work and let it work and let it work, you can see that number is dropping. It is dropping and dropping and dropping. Can you see that? Because it's working the diff. In a stranger way, I wish Aromax made a little holder for this, you know, so you can get it to work like that, you know. I mean, look at that number. It was 4,000 odd when I started, and I'm already down to sort of high, what's that? I'm looking upside down, high twos, if you like. So that to me is a great gadget, because I can then build another diff. If I like this diff, oh, I love that diff, I can just check it, I can build another diff, and I've got it exactly the same. Now 2.6 is it's probably a little firm, right? So realistically I would be running this in, and I again, probably giving away my little secrets if you like, but I like my diff between 15 and 1700. That's what I like. This is too firm, but it's not a running diff, remember. It's just a diff that I've just built. So when I now feel it, oh my goodness me, it's a shame that videos do not give you that feel, if you like, you know. But I tell you what, I don't know if the sound will pick up. I wonder if you can pick up sound. You can't even hear it. It's proper nice. I then would use the tool again, I check it again, and ladies and gents, I have to say to you that at the end of all of that, that's how I build a ball diff. So we'll stop that there, and what we'll do is we'll switch to a gear diff and go from there. So I suppose this was phase 3 ball diff. We'll make a phase 4 gear diff. So hope you've learned something from that. Catch you on the next one.